Good morning, Bravo bosses, and welcome to I Take Bravo Very Seriously with me, your host, Dana. Today I am jumping in with an urgent bonus episode to discuss James Kennedy's recent arrest for domestic violence, as well as all of the information I have collected this year regarding his alleged history of abuse. Everything I am telling you today is alleged. I will also be talking about domestic violence and sexual abuse today, so trigger warning if this subject matter is too heavy for you. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, everyone, so I'm sure you heard that yesterday that James Kennedy was arrested. I'm just going to read you guys the article that came out from TMZ yesterday. It says James Kennedy arrested for domestic violence. Vanderpump Rules star James Kennedy is in trouble with the law. We've learned that Bravo personality has been arrested for misdemeanor domestic violence. Law enforcement sources told TMZ Burbank, California police were dispatched to a home in the area Tuesday night after receiving a call about an argument between him and a woman. So this was an actual call. That night was Kathy Hilton's Christmas party. So James Kennedy was there, Ali Luber was there, so many celebrities and Bravo Lebs were there, Nick Viall was there. So a lot of people were there. And some more information has come out in terms of his, I guess, how he was acting that night. So another article, I think this is from In Touch, says that it's unclear if the woman who was involved in this altercation is Allie, like it doesn't specifically say. But the pair had been together, like I said earlier that night at Kathy Hilton's annual holiday party. A source tells people that the pair spent much of the night apart and didn't show much affection towards each other. Another insider told people that James was acting super aggressive all night long. He was acting so erratic, running back and forth to the bar and body checking people along the way, the insider claimed. He appeared inebriated. He spent the evening mostly alone, but when he did speak to people, he appeared irritated and rude. We're also told a witness saw Kennedy and the woman arguing, with the reality TV star allegedly grabbing her wrist at one point, though we're told officers did not see any visible injuries on her. It's worth noting that Kennedy and Ali were attending the holiday party. After the investigation, police say they determined it was a domestic incident, leading to the DJ being arrested for misdemeanor violence. Sources say Kennedy was released on $20,000 bail. So this was happening at their home. So just keep that in mind that they went to this party and then the arrest happened later on. And it was so loud that it seems like a neighbor or somebody else, called the police. This should not be surprising to anyone because we've been talking about this for years. James Kennedy has been very obviously verbally aggressive on camera. He's also been physically aggressive on camera with several different women. He's treated women very, very badly on camera. So this really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but I feel like there's this mentality around him where because I guess he's the lesser of many evils because there's just so many shitty guys on Vanderpump Rules that people just want to be able to see the good in him or seeing that he can change. But I just don't know about that. So as I mentioned, Nick Viall was at that holiday party, so I'm going to just play a clip from his podcast, actually from yesterday, explaining James's behavior that night.
One more story. So we saw James and Allie there. James crushing his DJ career.
At Kathy Hilton's?
Kathy Hilton's. Said hi, love James, love Allie.
Me too. I fuck with James, I fuck with Allie.
Took a picture. I hope James is okay with me saying this. James brought a friend. We met his friend. His friend seemed lovely. Allie and I were talking to some people like 15 minutes later. I'm the only one who saw this. Allie didn't even see this. Allie was immersed in a conversation with the other person we were talking to. And then James walks by. And then James turns around and he says to his friend, I forgot his friend's name. Let's just say his friend's name is Sam. And he goes, Sam, hold this now. And I was like, and his friend just grabbed the drink and James kept walking. And I was like, that's
the James Kennedy.
That was insane.
But you know what? That's the sober James Kennedy we all want to see.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
we want him to be so that we don't want him to be drunk to do. We want to be like, we want to do that. Like that's who you are, motherfucker.
I was like 10 minutes earlier, I met this guy who he introduced as his best friend, and then 10 minutes later, he was barking orders and just saying,
James Kennedy, man, he needs his hands free.
On Carnival, DJ James Kennedy.
Do you think this now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this concept of him being DJ James Kennedy so he gets to act a certain way, like he's not actually white Kanye. He's not actually, at that level. So even if he were, it is no excuse to treat people differently or like they're below you or to put your hands on anyone for any reason. So this sort of behavior sounds very typical of the type of behavior we've seen from James Kennedy before. However, this is the first time he's been arrested for something like this. As you may recall, Kristen Doute has alluded to her having certain concerns with her relationship with him. And I just want to point out a few things. I know a lot of people will turn right back around and say, well, Kristen punched him in the face. Now, it has been named in many sources, including from Kristen, that he actually pushed her into a bush first, and then she punched him in the face. And reactive abuse is still abuse, but it's not necessarily the situation that you saw. Bravo has always treated Kristen sort of badly, and so they ended up cutting that out. And she actually tried to bring it up, or it did come up at the season 7 reunion, and it was discussed, but they actually ended up cutting that as well. And she actually spoke about that on a podcast called Been Here for a While, which was her friend Rachel O'Brien's podcast. I don't know if you guys remember her. She was heavily featured in season 3 of Vanderpump Rules. That was when Kristen didn't have any friends. So she had to sort of bring in a friend. So she had someone to film with. So I'm going to play you guys this clip from Rachel O'Brien's podcast, Be Here for a While.
Princess, bride to be Brittany Cartwright, for being the only friend of mine, the only person on that panel that stood up for me the entire reunion.
In what regard?
Against James Kennedy, because that was the battle I knew I was going to have to fight. It wasn't something I was looking forward to because James Kennedy, don't even like saying his name, JK, is no longer a part of my life or our lives at all. But it was obviously something that we did film.
So did you end up revealing like what it is that you really are pissed about? Or
I did reveal that it did not air, and I'm grateful for that because I just don't think it's something, unless I'm going to be stood up for by everyone on the panel, every one of my friends that knows the truth.
I'd stand up for you. I was there.
You were literally there firsthand. Yeah. So they kind of skated past it, which I was actually grateful for because unless it was going to go the way I wanted it to go, I didn't want it to air at all.
Yeah, I can see that.
And
what's the point? What's the point?
What is the point if he's still on the show?
No, it's just been so long, and perhaps it's more.
Well, mostly if he's just like still on the show. If he's going to be around, then what's the point in discussing something that will?
So this is just another indication that there was a point in time where Kristen tried to expose this information about James, and it just never made air. And there is, and I don't know why, but there has always been this protection around James Kennedy since his initiation into Bravo. He can not do no wrong because he can do wrong or he does wrong on the show, but he can do wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong until the end of time and is never fired. So we've seen him do a lot of shitty things. We've seen him get to continue to be on the show. But again, I think it's this whole concept of the lesser of many other evils. So there's another content creator named Thea Souza. She goes by Your Moms Are Watching on Instagram. And she actually had a friend who Kristen had a situation one night, allegedly, where James allegedly was getting violent with her and she had to hide at someone's house. And the person's house that she hid at was Thea D'Souza's friend. So I'm going to read you this clip I have from that. So this is a screenshot from before Scandival, and this is from Kristen. It says, "Thank you for acknowledging it and me, Thea. It really makes me sick, and people constantly wondering why I'm obsessed with him because it's clear I have a visceral reaction. It's been pretty shitty, like I said, since day one." And sorry, the initial text was, sorry, what was the initial message? Sorry, you guys, I'm just trying to find all the information about this. So, okay, so sorry. So Thea D'Souza posted, "I'm telling you guys, the James abuse stuff is going to come out. Maybe that's even the bombshell that Raquel tells Andy James hit her when she said she bumped her nose. All I know is Kristen stayed at my friend's house one night because James hit her. She was hiding from him. True story. I think when Kristen refers to it will all come out about James, that's what she's referring to." So, sorry, that was posted before Scandival. That's what I meant. And then Kristen actually responded to that post by Thea D'Souza saying, "Thank you for acknowledging it. And yes, it's true. And it makes me sick." I'm just trying to see if there's any other stuff from Kristen. She said, "Oh yeah, for sure. I've been dying to tell the world for 8 years. Just never felt like the right time and doesn't feel like anyone would care at this point. I wish I could shout it from the rooftops of Los Angeles one day. And I was going to ask who said this, etc. Now it all makes sense. You're speaking on behalf of the night I slept at Elisa's." And this is directly from Kristen that Your Moms Are Watching Thea D'Souza screenshotted and posted many times. This is in her what do you call it, on Instagram where you have like your most important stuff. I forget what it's called. like at the top of your profile. So this is all information that has been out there that people have just continued to ignore. Now, I want to play you this clip from Kristen's podcast when it was called Sex, Love, and What Else Matters. And this is from February of this year.
See You Next Tuesday is what? Does James have a DJ name? DJ Beats Women, allegedly?
It's not alleged.
Not allegedly.
That's exactly right.
I mean, I got it. It's
exactly
all over
right.
the news. I don't know. It's just tabloids I've been reading. I don't know what people are saying.
It's not alleged.
I do know what people are saying.
We'll talk about it soon.
The thing is about Kristen, she had this reputation for so many years as Crazy Kristen. So she didn't, there's so many reasons why women are afraid to come forward when they are victims of any sort of abuse, whether it be verbal, sexual, any kind of abuse. There are so many reasons why someone may not report or come forward or may lie or change their stories. And one of those reasons, like I said, is like people not believing things that you've said before. And so you just feel like you're going to be called a liar, or you may not have enough evidence of the thing that you're saying, or you may feel that that person is more powerful than you and will cause some harm to you or your career. So when you see people like Kristen or any other woman who is in the industry who may have decided to stay in the industry and continue to work with someone who they later say allegedly abused them, that's not that abnormal. It is very normal for people to continue to work with people who have done shitty things to them, even things to that level, because that's their career, right? And what are they supposed to do? There's so many women who didn't come forward about Harvey Weinstein because they were so afraid of what would happen to their career. So, Kristen probably felt very afraid of saying anything because she didn't want to lose her opportunities with Bravo. Again, this is all alleged. These are just the things that I'm thinking, but it's completely understandable if her career is television that she has decided to keep this, to herself and has never fully disclosed it, especially if she feels like she won't really be believed. Now, Kristen Doute at this point in time is at her prime. She is so friggin' popular. She is so cool. She has given birth to a baby girl she is pregnant with a baby girl and she's on the Valley. She's doing amazing. She's engaged and people could not love her more. She could not be more popular. And James Kennedy, on the other hand, has just lost his job on Vanderpump Rules and no longer has ties to Bravo. So I'm really hoping that now is the time that Kristen decides to come out with this information. Anything that she has to say, I feel like this is the time that she'll be believed the most. And when other people start to come forward, even if there's one, it does start to tend to create a domino effect of more people feeling comfortable coming forward because there's courage in numbers and there's strength in numbers. So this is information that I've been talking about all year, but I had a lower follower count and I didn't have as many people listening to my podcast. But if you go back and listen to episode 5, Pump Rules and Pump Rules Adjacent, I talk all about this and all of the research that I've collected on James Kennedy over time. Now, I'm going to give you all of that again today, including what I've already given you, and I'm going to continue to share what I've shared today because now I have a bigger following and more people listening to my podcast. So I'm hoping that people take the time to hear me today and everything that I've collected. And again, everything that I'm saying is allegations, and this is just information that I've collected. You can take it for what you will. I just feel like it's important to get the information out there so that people can stop saying things like, how come we didn't know about this? Or how could this be allowed to happen? I just want to make sure that everyone knows that this stuff is out there. That's my goal. All right. So, what I want to read you guys is an article from 2015. This is from a podcast that Lala did. The podcast no longer exists. It is called the Nick Ritchie Podcast. And like I said, no longer exists, so I can't find the actual podcast. This is an article from Jezebel.com, who published an article on December 15th, 2015. This is by Kara Brown. And this article is an article about the podcast that Lala did. Okay. So it says Vanderpump Rules cast member Lala Kent appeared on the Nick Ritchie podcast to discuss the show and her relationship with her maybe just for the show love interest James Kennedy. During the episode, which was posted on December 14th, Lala tells an unsettling story about the couple's first and only sexual encounter. Lala insists that what took place wasn't rape, though it sounds like rape. We've seen Lala and James make out during episodes on the show, but any clear reference for them having sex is yet to air. And then it shows like a back and forth with the interviewer. Lala Kent. Well, let's not get it twisted. Was I ever like sexually attracted to James? No. We had a lot of fun. I could stand to make out with him. Nick Ritchie. So you've never slept with James? Lala Kent. We fucked one time, and I was so blackout drunk I don't remember one thing. And I know that everyone will say that, but I will say I take accountability for every single one of my actions, and I'm owning that now because I saw the condom in the wrapper, so I know that something happened. Nick Ritchie. Yeah, but that's classified as rape too in some countries. Lala Kent. Well, in some countries, but I'm not screaming rape. It was obviously, Nick Ritchie, it was obviously what? Consensual? How could it be consensual platonic sex if you don't remember and you wake up and you see a condom? Lala Kent. Yeah, well, he was like, babe, we slept together last night. And he was like, we got into your shower too, babe. And I was like, how the fuck did we both fit in there? Like, my shower is a 2x4. While far from the perfect response, which includes some unnecessary victim blaming, Richie pushes her to take the incident more seriously while his co-host Scooby Sunday tries to dismiss what happened. Nick Ritchie, and you just laughed that off, Lala? That makes me not like you right now. Lala Kent, wait, what do you mean laugh it off? Nick Ritchie, you're like, oh, hey, funny James, you banged me last night, but I don't remember. Scooby Sunday, she's young. Lala Kent, people do that all the time. I know for damn sure he's not going to rape me. I know this kid for a long time. The conversation shifts to how many women James managed to sleep with, and we hear both Lala and Scooby Sunday echo the same troubling sentiment that because she was drunk, is friends with James, and didn't feel violated, nothing wrong could have occurred. Lala Kent. He bangs really hot chicks, though, you guys. How does he pull that? I don't get it. Nick Ritchie. Because he's on a TV show, for one, and he's an alcoholic, and he knows the blackout method. Lala Kent. Oh, you think he knew that I was blackout and he was like, going home with Lala tonight? Nick Ritchie. I'm assuming, because does it really count? To me, it just feels rapey, but that's just me personally. Lala Kent. Well, we're not throwing the rapey card around because I didn't feel violated. I just feel like, I mean, good for you. Scooby Sunday, that's not rape if she doesn't feel violated. It's not rapey. Lala Kent. No, I didn't feel violated. He's harmless, trust me. Lala saying that she didn't feel violated by the situation does not legally mean that it wasn't rape, though she does seem to believe that both her and James's drunkenness explains everything away. A look through Instagram reveals that Lala and James have been regularly posting pictures of each other, even though Lala claims that they're not in a relationship. Last night, they appeared out together on Bravo's Watch What Happens Live. Lala doesn't appear to have comments on her statements publicly, nor has James, though yesterday she retweeted Nick Ritchie's tweet promoting her appearance on the podcast. So take that for what you will. I did post this a long time ago, earlier this year, this article. A lot of people feel like because Lala does not feel that it was sexual assault, that it wasn't sexual assault. A lot of people feel like because the actions would meet the legal definition for rape, that it was. Again, take it for what you will. I'm just reading you an article that I found online. And then I want to give you guys some context to some Reddit posts that I also saw, just to show you that there are these things out there. This is from like several years ago, and I'm not going to read like the usernames from like these Reddit people, but I'm just going to read you some posts that I've seen. It says, my roommate was essayed by James Kennedy years ago, but after he dated Kristen. She met him at SUR, and he went home with her when she didn't want to have sex. He got very angry and forcibly ejaculated on her while berating her for wasting his time because I could have gone home with anyone. Then he got dressed and left in a tizzy. Then somebody said, that's really awful. I feel so sorry for her. Um, and there's this other thing from Katie. This is from back in 2018. So this is from the time where they're filming season 7, or season 7 is airing. And that was the season where Katie was literally like, time's up on James Kennedy, and they really wanted him fired and they wanted him done. So Katie posted a tweet that said, I know the truth, say what you want, hashtag abuse, hashtag consent. And someone responded, to actual survivors of abuse and rape, you are being extremely disrespectful. Your opportunistic, ignorant, and white girl bullshit faux feminism is fucking insufferable. And then Katie responded to that, maybe I'm standing up for those who are abused and who are scared to come forward. All I can say is there's much more going on here. And then I also want to play you guys some clips from the Bitch Bible podcast. So this is a podcast by Jackie Schimmel. She's always been good friends with the Vanderpump people, especially Stassi and Kristen, and she's had them on her podcast multiple times. So I'm just going to play a clip for you guys from that, one of the Bitch Bible podcasts.
James Kennedy and the things that he was doing and his patterns like kind of make you look inward and be like, holy fuck, like that's what I was doing, and then rejig the format.
And this is with Jax
I
Taylor.
don't like to be, I compare myself to him A little bit, but the things that he's done, which have not been talked about, are way worse than what I've done. Considering what I've done is bad, and I'm not justifying. I'm not saying who's worse and who's
No, I think you've taken accountability.
Yeah, we're just not allowed to talk about the things that he's done.
I know.
And what he should be not on the show anymore. I mean, to be honest,
I kind of alluded to that in an episode with Kristen because I have heard things that and I understand protecting the franchise,
protecting the franchise, the network, yes.
And your cast. And listen, this is how you guys make money. It's a really popular show,
right.
But if everybody's saying it,
I know. And it's just one of those things that just kind of, we have to stay away from. And it really bothers me because he just kind of is just getting away with murder, really. And it's just, it's
fucking frustrating.
I can't wait to do a tell-all book when this is all over.
Which he probably will never do because like now he's on the Valley and he needs that. But this is the clip from Kristen on that podcast that they're sort of referencing.
I feel like shit's gonna come out about James that's gonna be irreparable and they're gonna have to make him go bye-bye. And just from hearsay, I have heard things about James that is protected in a vault just so that to keep the, sanctity of the show and to not like have it be a whole situation. Right. But I have, heard things firsthand that I would not repeat either, that maybe he's gonna need to go bye-bye.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. A girl can dream, right?
Dream.
And you're trying, and you're doing the Lord's work. You just keep on that fight.
I'm trying to make everyone's dreams come true.
And there's one other thing I wanted to show you guys. This is from Logan No. So you guys might remember him. He was friends with James. He was the one who like pretended that, or I don't know if he pretended, he said he was in love with James and then he pretended that they were sleeping together. This was like in season 6. And then Brittany and her sister ended up telling that to James. So Logan posted this tweet, or sorry, this was on Instagram, but this was deleted, but it was captured. And I don't know that the year that this happened. It said, mourning the loss of my friendship with James after he's proven himself to be a gross and terrible human being. He treats people like they're trash and physically assaults anyone that stands in his way. After he broke my nose tonight over nothing, I've decided to end my friendship for good. And then that disappeared. So I feel like I've provided a lot of stuff to you guys today to show you the history of James Kennedy. This is to show you that there has been concerning, very scary things that have happened involving the show, involving Kristen Doute, involving people who are on Reddit who are, making claims. Again, all alleged, but this is just quite a number of things that it would be odd for all of this stuff not to be true. So I just want you guys to sort of keep that in mind, that there are just like so many of these violent tendencies that we've seen with him, and the odds that they aren't also happening behind the scenes are, in my opinion, slim to none. I also just feel like annoyed that this is something that people have always seemed to have known about. And as you can tell from the clip from the Bitch Bible with Jax Taylor, it's like Bravo literally told the cast members they're not allowed to talk about certain things, which is so crazy that it feels like they want to tell the truth and that certain things were going on, but they were. I mean, I feel like this all has to do with the lore of Vanderpump. I feel like there is a like garbage dump somewhere of like lost footage. I swear there's things like the thing that Faith said where she said that Lala came at her with a knife. I believe that happened on camera, and that was also on the Bitch Bible. Kristen talked about that on the Bitch Bible. This podcast, it just had so much tea. But like, where's that footage, right? Like, there is like a dump somewhere or like a hidden vault with all of the Lost Vanderpump footage that could probably get all of these people incriminated for years to come. So then something happened after all of this. So everything that I've told you about, except the current arrest, is stuff that's been collected over the years and stuff that's been found over the years. Then late last year, Jamie Lynne, who is Sheena's best friend, which is many people, but she was in her last wedding, the wedding that she had to Brock, that was in season 10 of Vanderpump Rules, and she's been in the scenes. You'll see her in the background of scenes. I call her an NPC, non-playable character, meaning that she's at all the parties, just sort of like Brad is, and she's a friend of Brad's as well, but she appears in the scenes at all the parties, but doesn't have that much speaking. She's spoken here and there. So she released an episode of her Patreon on December 12th, 2023, and her podcast is called Jamie All Over, and she talked about something that happened at emo night. So you might recall from our watching of season 11 of Vanderpump Rules, there was a night that was in July. It was filmed in July of 2023 at this venue where they raged all night. They had the emo night. It was the same night that Tom Sandoval was having his birthday party. So remember how James initially had gone to Tom's house, got in a fight with him, and then went to emo night. So I'm going to play you a few clips from Jamie's podcast, Jamie All Over, because they're very relevant to the things I want to tell you guys about next.
Something went down that night that was upsetting. Nothing having to do with the venue or emo night itself, just with some information I found out by some people that I was there with. And it was really upsetting and it was triggering. I think that's kind of why I've had a hard time podcasting since then as well. Part of the reason, because I don't want to say too much about this. So many people will be like, Jamie, that's not your story to tell. You can't talk about this. But then I've just kind of been wrestling with this in my head because true, it's not my story to tell. But on the other hand, I think it's every woman's story to tell. If it can help another woman, if it can help other people, if it's information that I believe people should know.
And then
But
there's this one.
when I found this out, I then went up to other people who I didn't realize were mic'd. They were filming Vanderpump Rules that night. And I thought filming was over, but I guess people were still mic'd. And I questioned people about this. So because of that, I'm going to assume, or I'm going to hope, these things were taken seriously. And I do know there's an investigation going on. So we'll see where all of that goes. What I found out is worse than cheating. And it was just disturbing on many, many levels. Ugh, I wish I could just talk about it, but I unfortunately cannot. And not a thing where I can't talk about it, but the truth is I would prefer the investigation to work its course. And if something is meant to come out, if they find that these things that I was told, if it's all true, then that's one thing. But if they're not true, or if they're exaggerated, or if some is true and not all of it's true, I don't want to ruin anyone's career or life if it's not true. More people found out, more people know about it because of this investigation that's going on. And I actually got a phone call from Bethany Frankel. I talked to her for about an hour. She knew, she was told about this. She is aware. And it was interesting because I spoke with Bethany prior to her podcast that she did with Rachel.
So there was a podcast Bethany did a while back, sort of about this, and not the whole episode, but she referenced it very briefly, just saying, there's this guy named James Kennedy on this show, Vanderpump Rules. As you guys know, I don't know a ton about Vanderpump Rules, but I don't really get why this guy gets a special treatment. He gets to walk on water. There's apparently an investigation going on about this guy, but for some reason, he just gets to do whatever he wants. What's the deal with that? Now, I will tell you that I've done a bunch of digging and had conversations. Again, this was all earlier this year when I found out about this investigation. I will tell you what I can, which isn't a ton, because I also, don't have this information firsthand. So I will tell you that allegedly that NBC and Universal was conducting an investigation regarding information that Jamie reported to them at emo night because she saw that there was producers there, and that it involves James Kennedy and it involves, I'll say, abuse allegations. Again, this is alleged. This is what I heard from somebody else who was at emo night. And producers, NBC, Bravo, Universal told Jamie that they would take it seriously. Investigations like this go on for a long time, and eventually information was reported back that, like, I don't know if the investigation was ever closed or finished or if it's considered finished now, but I'll tell you that eventually information was reported back that there just wasn't enough people willing to come forward, or that there wasn't anyone willing to come forward. So without someone being willing to come forward, there's nothing to investigate. That's just how it works. You can't investigate someone for abuse without having both parties' side, because that's the fairness of the law. You have to give both people an opportunity to respond or to say something. I've worked in sexual abuse investigations and complaints before. That's the type of work I used to do. And anytime anyone wanted to be anonymous, we'd have to say, like, we can't really investigate. There's not much we can do, because if the person can't respond back and say, oh, that's not what happened with that person, right? They have to have that opportunity to respond legally. That's just how the law works. It's the principle of administrative fairness. And without it, the legal system would suffer, allegedly. So, but it's very obvious why people don't want to come forward in many of these situations. In the situations that the cases that I would deal with, a lot of people would be afraid of retribution. They'd be afraid that if they came forward about their abuser, that that person would come for them and their family and try to harm them. And there was nothing like I could do as a sexual abuse investigator to prevent that, because I was not the police. And I really and we didn't have ties to the police. We were a different organization. So there was really nothing I could do to protect people. And so people would say, wait a minute, you want me to give you my name and my address and my phone number and pass that information on, and you can't do anything to protect me and keep me safe, but you want me to tell you all this personal information? And we're like, I'm sorry, right? And then a lot of people you would just never hear from again. So it's very normal for people not to report or never report. And it's really unfortunate in this situation, because the fact that an investigation had gone that high to that level, I was like, wow, this is a really big deal. And yet it wasn't really talked about. But a lot of internal or like Bravo content creators did know about it. Again, I don't know the actual status of the end of that investigation, but what I do know, and like I said, this happens all the time, there just wasn't anyone willing to stand up and say, this happened to me. So that's sort of where that lay. Then Rachel Leviss posted something. Basically, she had tried to, go rogue on one of her podcast episodes, and she wanted to talk about an incident of domestic abuse. Then she ended up saying, I had to take down portions of this episode because I was advised to do so legally. Then I don't know if you guys remember Brett Kenyon. He is a friend of the group, also, one of these non-playable characters. He was at Sheena's wedding. He's the one in season 11 of Vanderpump Rules, the same episode, the emo night. He was at Tom Sandoval's house for his birthday party, and he was the one who came up to James and said, like, hey man, like, Katie's trying to kick me out of the friend group. Is there anything you can do about this? And he's like, who is this guy? So that's Brett Kenyon. So he responded to Rachel posting about not being able to post the entire content. So basically, like, Rachel Goes Rogue's Instagram posted about not being able to post the entire content for legal reasons. And then Brett responded to that, and he said, I get that it's, oh, sorry, wait, let me find this for you guys. I get that, but because somebody had says it's hard to believe her, and Brett responded, I get that, but it def happened. I was someone who saw it firsthand in the car one time, and it was very alarming. We need to believe victims. But at this point in time, nobody was really listening to Rachel, right? And I want to remind you guys of something else about Rachel. Again, at this point in time, we're not listening to Rachel. We were very angry because she was suing Ariana. But in her lawsuit paperwork, she said the following. So I'm going to read this to you from her lawsuit paperwork that she filed whatever day it was, like March 1st of this year, March 2nd, March 3rd. It says, James Kennedy, a DJ prone to violent outbursts and grappling with longstanding abuse issues and emotional dysregulation. Kennedy would regularly berate Leviss, falsely accuse her of cheating, and act in generally unhinged manner. Some of this was captured on camera, some was not. Leviss eventually warned Kennedy that she would leave him if he did not stop drinking. However, she soon learned that his despicable, sorry, you guys, I'm having the worst time reading today. However, she soon learned that his despicable behavior was not solely a function of alcohol abuse. At Thanksgiving dinner with Leviss's family in Arizona, Kennedy erupted at Leviss's mother and father and kicked her family dog 4 times in an uncontrollable rage. In 2021, Leviss ended their relationship and broke off their engagement. Kennedy's history of violent and dangerous behavior was well known by Bravo, Evolution, and the cast. Kennedy once physically assaulted then cast member Kristen Doute on camera. The footage, however, never aired. nor has Kennedy ever faced repercussions for his actions, which would otherwise be fireable, at a minimum, due in part to the intervention of his powerful ally, Lisa Vanderpump, who has served as his protector. So again, at this point in time, we were just so mad at Rachel that we ignored this. I mean, I didn't. He kicked her family dog 4 times, but everybody's like, she's a liar. Okay, that's not how the world works. Because she lied about having sex with Tom Sandoval doesn't mean that she lied about this. This was at a family dinner in with 20 people at the table. I had a phone conversation with Rachel Leviss's publicist, Juliet Harris, who we all know is a bit unhinged, but she gave me information that there was at least 20 people at this dinner. The entire family saw him kick her dog 4 times, and this is the actual reason that she broke up with him. Think about the timeline. This was Thanksgiving, 2021, and then she broke up with him a couple weeks later at the beginning of December, the day of the day before the season 9 reunion. So think about that timeline. It was within 2 weeks of, this Thanksgiving event. So there's that. I mean, and this is a point in time where he was no longer drinking. This just shows that you can't blame everything on alcohol. I understand that he had a problem with alcohol, but if somebody commits a murder while they're drunk, you don't like get off scot-free because of them, because you were drunk, so you didn't know that you were committing the murder. That's not really like how that works. You still have to take accountability for your actions. And it also seems like this anger problem extends beyond alcohol because we have now heard how he was acting at Kathy Hilton's Christmas party. We heard how he acted at Rachel's Thanksgiving dinner. There was also that incident that happened at Sheena's wedding that they didn't film, but they talked about, where like one of Brock's friends like drunkenly came up to James and James got like pissed off or offended because the guy like put his arm around James and James like body checked him and tried to get him away. Like James has always exhibited very violent behavior at very minor things. He has a short fuse, and so like I said, I believe this anger problem to extend beyond alcohol, and I think that he needs other kind of help. Then there was the Teddy and Tamara thing. So I want to remind you guys about that. So Teddy and Tamara said in a podcast that they did with Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval, they did like a crossover podcast with them. They did this podcast back in November 2023, like at BravoCon with them. And they were talking about the MTV Movie Awards from April or May 2022. So I'm going to play you guys this clip from Tom's podcast. Just give me a sec to find it. Okay.
Well, yeah, we went to Tom Tom.
We went to Tom Tom,
Yeah.
but there was an altercation.
Wasn't there something happened? I don't know,
I
like.
think we need to talk about that.
But Tamara and I had to separate because we had
to jump out of the car.
Yeah, but you jumped out with one human, and then I jumped out with the other. And then all I kept thinking was, if paparazzi sees me walking down the street with this person, like holding their arm, walking them into Lisa Vanderpump's club, like what is going to happen?
I don't know.
But then I saw that person as the voice of reason the following season, and I was like, what is going on?
And then after that, Sheena had Allie on her podcast, and it really felt like, a lot of women were starting to rally around and starting to gain momentum. And this podcast ended up sort of shutting it down because a lot of people were really worried about Allie and thought that something bad was happening to her. And it really felt like Sheena was like, hey, I'm going to force you to come on my podcast. I want you to speak about this because for the sake of the show. It just felt very much like that because I really doubt that Allie reached out to Sheena and was like, hey, I want to speak on your podcast. It really feels like something Sheena tried to make her do. So this was her response, which ended up shutting the whole thing down.
And it further suggested that James was involved. And now there's rumors flying around that Teddy might be hinting at an altercation between you and James.
Right.
So,
okay, yeah.
Do you recall that incident that she's describing, and do you feel that she has described this accurately? Like, I want to get your side because you were obviously also in the car.
Especially, like, that's crazy to me that that's the most asked question. Like, that makes me really sad.
Yeah.
Because no, I'm good. That never happened. There was no physical altercation. Yes, we were in the car together. I thought we were having fun. We were having fun. But then James and I did get into an argument, but there was no physical assault. I was not bleeding. And they didn't have to get out of the car and separate us. So that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'll say on that. But and I guess for the record, James has never physically hurt me or assaulted me. And we're good. We're happy. He's working on himself. I know in the past that he has anger issues. So I get it. But I just want people to know that I'm good and I'm safe and I love him. And yeah.
Was that during a time when he was still drinking?
So a lot of people were sort of disappointed by that response. They were really hoping that Allie would come forward and say something else. I know Teddy and Tamara are maybe not the most reliable people in the world, but again, don't you guys think that this is a lot of stuff that I've told you today for it all not to be true? That's just super unlikely, statistically speaking, if you want to think in math terms. Um, I'm glad that this information is all coming out. I am hoping that now is a good time. There's a couple more things I wanted to talk to you guys about, and that involves Jamie Lynn. So when she posted those podcast episodes, I mean, she's clearly alluding to information that the Vanderpump Rules cast knows and that they're not comfortable sharing. And then she went into a little more detail in her Instagram stories yesterday, now that the arrest news has broken. So I just want to show you guys that or read that to you guys. So Jamie Lynn said, I don't even want to show his face, but this is why I had to distance myself from so many people who stuck by him, posted with him, supported his shows because we were all given the same information that goes way beyond this report. It's also why I had a hard time podcasting, as I was scared to say too much, but also disappointed in myself for self-censoring to protect friends' jobs. I never wanted to be the reason a show got canceled or friends lost jobs. But now that the show is done with that cast, I feel I can say more. Ethically, as a fierce supporter of DV victims and a survivor myself, I tried to teach other women around that this is not okay to bring an abuser around the very women he abused. I also had conversations with NBC Universal and Bravo producers about how this abuser should not have a platform. It sickened me to see so many women unknowingly support him. I hope that this will change the minds of those who gave him the benefit of the doubt and wrote the multiple women off as not reliable. Always believe the victim. I hope this is the rock bottom for him and he gets the help that he needs. I hope his victims who choose not to say something in order to get more TV time realize they put other people in harm. And I hope the one woman who has been carrying his trauma for years with friends still brings him around will be vindicated and share her story. And I really think she means Kristen. And again, I think this is finally Kristen's time, and I think that she should share her story. Again, it's up to her, obviously, if she never feels comfortable, if she never ends up wanting to share, that's her truth, and she's allowed to do that as well. I just really feel like this is her time. Jamie made another post that really just, calls out the people who have put James on a pedestal. She says, no, it wasn't okay to have him DJ your party after you knew. No, it didn't matter if it was years ago or if drinking was involved. No, it didn't matter if he was funny or charming. No, it wasn't okay to headline him after you knew just because he could bring in crowds. No, it wasn't okay to post a photo with him the day after you said, now I know this, I will have a hard time filming with him. No, the victims were not at fault, crazy and did not provoke it. No, it was not okay to go support his shows and document it after you knew. No, it was not okay to put money over ethics. And then she also posted, the producers knew the whole time. And then Brett Kenyon, who's the guy I just told you guys about, who posted about Rachel, he also posted a story saying, do you believe me now? Do you believe me now? They knew the whole time that I was on to something. Just wait. So this, to my understanding, and I will say allegedly, but to my understanding, was a very open inside secret that everyone on the cast knew, that everyone knew about this investigation, what the investigation was about, all the things that he had done, and that they were just staying silent because they were so worried about the show and losing the show. Um, and I don't know why that has not extended it to now, or why that has continued to extend until now, because the show is over. So my first thought when the show ended was, okay, when are the cast members going to come forward and talk about the things that they know that James has done, and they still haven't done it? And, I do understand the concept of innocent until proven guilty, of course. If, there was a period of time where I was very upset because I'm just like, if all of these people know, how are they continuing to film with him? How are they allowing, their friends and family and other women to be around him? I just can't understand it. I can't understand if, like it's just for the show. And, I've just sort of learned over time that that's how a lot of people's mentality is in Hollywood. Like, the show or money or their jobs in that industry are above everything. And it's really upsetting. It's really disappointing considering like how egregious and how scary this is. But again, like I understand innocent until proven guilty. I just don't understand why they had to, support him and promote him in such a way, right? It's one thing to be like, okay, these are allegations. I'm not sure if he's done these things, but it's another to like, go to Coachella and post pictures with him and go to his shows and like you said, like have him headline shows and have him around your daughter and like go swimming with him and his girlfriend and go to dinner with him and his girlfriend. That's really supporting him and that's doing a lot for someone that there's allegations against. You know what I mean? And that's the part that's really pissed me off this year, where I was like, okay, I can live with the fact that, maybe they decide that they have to be around him or they can live with being around him because they're just allegations and we don't really know. But it's just the blind support that I feel a lot of people in Bravo have been giving him just doesn't really make sense to me, and I just don't know why it had to extend that far. So this is everything I know as of right now about James Kennedy. If more information comes out, which I'm sure it will, we'll find out about charges and anything else that comes out from here. I will definitely let you know. Love you, BBs. See you next time. Sorry guys, one more thing I wanted to mention before we sign off is that Kristen Doute also responded to it. So when the TMZ article was posted, Bravo and Cocktails, which is also a really great account, you should follow that account. Kristen Doute reposted the TMZ article that Bravo and Cocktail posted and wrote, "Finally." So in my opinion, that is her confirming that James Kennedy has done some stuff that meets the definition of domestic violence, because she is confirming the words "finally" on that post. So I just want to make sure you guys also had that confirmation from Kristen, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to I Take Bravo Very Seriously in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can listen to this show and any other episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch full-length video episodes on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. You can follow me on Instagram at I Take Bravo Very Seriously and at The Bravo Investigator. You can follow me on TikTok at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.